So let's see, get out the old game design folder.
Hold on. I have to get these main parts.
See this death folder, this is just general game designs aren't big enough to have their own folder and all my talks and stuff.
That, this, that.
The process of creating a game is so long and so drawn out that it really feels like there's not very much room in that process for kind of creative spark.
This is base. If this gets affection, you only have a certain amount of these ships left.
I think when I actually sit down and focus and kind of have an idea and let it kind of just flow out of me onto paper and get every little aspect of it that I can, that's where my creative process is actually happening.
Then you launch down this thing.
I guess this is the equivalent of an architect's sketch. And then, actually building the building is not really creative in the same way as actually sketching it out and kind of figuring out what it's going to look like.
And this is what a Terran normal troop looks like. My name is Mez, and I'm Jason Moore's son.
So here is the original design for Passage that I think I ended up tearing out of a notebook that I had in it. So Passage is, I guess, the game that made me a well-known independent game designer, or the game that sort of I'm still known for, even though it's like 3 years old. So Passage is a game about the feelings I was having as I think I was approaching my 30th birthday, just kind of thinking about my own mortality, thinking about passage of time in my family as my first child, Mez, was getting older, and my second child was going to be born any day. So all those kinds of thoughts swirling around in my head and staring at myself in the mirror and looking at myself get older. I was trying to figure out how to condense those things down into, build it and weave it through an interactive game.
Passage is about pretty much Jason and Lauren going through time.
Character position could represent time, where you start off, you're born at this edge of the screen, you're young, middle-aged, and then old, and eventually you're dead once you reach that other edge.
Lauren stands in this one place, then Jason starts walking. Then once he goes past her, she starts walking with her. And they get older until Lauren dies, and then Jason, and then. How do you feel about that? It's weird.
Maybe they're not sure what their goal is. Perhaps along the way they get hints about what it is, more and more clear, but they don't discover until the end. And maybe a different goal each time. I mean, I guess in some ways I sort of looked at it as kind of like a love letter to my wife in a way.
I thought it was beautiful and full of enormous meaning personally to our family.
There is this trade-off in the game between like the single, like footloose kind of life and the life of compromise, which is the life with another person.
You can do more things if you don't have to compromise with someone, if you don't have to bend with someone.
Like a hard path and an easy path, where the hard path hasn't got a reward on it.
I know, like if he was alone and working, he would be working 24 hours a day. That would be fine. It's just that he chose to have, a family, and family is really important to him.
I don't like this, Dad.
I think when I'm sort of sitting down to finally come up with, sort of flesh out the idea into notes and actually channel it into a more concrete form, as opposed to just these ideas floating around in my head, I try to preface that process with these themes that I want the work to deal with. So that's the first thing that I start listing. I guess I sort of frame them that way. When I'm approaching them, I sort of want to challenge myself to make a game about something that's like so big I can't really put my arms around it, that I can't really even necessarily put it into words. When it was first shown at the GAMA event, some people I saw people reacting to it, and they reacted very strongly to it and kind of, walked up to me and congratulated me on the design and so on, and then kind of stood there in a moment of silence and they're contemplating their own mortality or whatever it made them do. And then all these people, once it was released online, all these people talked about how it made them cry, and it was the first game to make them cry, or how it made them, they were all showing it to their wives or their girlfriends, and I've even had people say, made them reconsider the life path, they were quitting their job, I had just crazy reactions. One guy seemed like he was suicidal as a result of it, and was emailing me for like a week and a half, on the brink of a nervous breakdown. It was just like these crazy reactions, along with a very, very large dose of God, Jason Rohr, you're the most pretentious jerk in the world. I hate you. You know? So it had this kind of mix of like all these people praising it as the greatest thing ever, and then this other contingent saying. A lot of people thought it wasn't even a game because of the screen orientation and the screen aspect ratio. If you're not paying attention and you don't try pressing all 4 arrow keys, the easiest thing to do is just to walk to the right and just hold down the right arrow key. And you might not notice that you can actually walk down, and there's a whole maze and other stuff down there, other gameplay elements down there. So there's like probably like 50% of people just saw this little strip, saw a little guy standing in it, and said, oh, I guess I'm supposed to walk to the right, and just walked to the right for 5 minutes and watched a little movie of them holding down the right arrow key as they meet the wife and go through their age progression and then die. And that made some of them cry, but for other ones they said, well, this isn't even a game, it's just a movie where you hold down a button. I'm like, guys, try pushing it down. So yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, I guess like I said before, I feel like I'm sort of, in some ways, it's a great calling card. You know, I'm the guy who made Passage. But on the other hand, it's also the sort of thing to overcome because, you know, I've got to try to make a game that's even better than that, or the people will appreciate even more than that somehow. You know, I guess people also dismiss me because I'm the guy who made Passage, you know, for the people who didn't like it. You know, so.
You know what I do? When I play this game, I just keep pressing. I hold down the key and you keep walking. It's just so weird. You never have any stops.